Hello, and welcome to the Boom Podcast. This is the fifth show. And we're just rolling along fast and furious. That's the only way I do it. I don't understand one guy once a month. I don't do that. I want to meet lots of people. I want to help the audience as much as I can. Again, if you're new here, this show is for solo professional or small business owners who, as we all know, typically wear many hats. So they do fulfillment, they do marketing, sales, operations, leadership, etc., etc. And my clients over many years, they're kind of scrambling to hold the ship together. And I've always wanted to do something where they can go somewhere and get a little bit to help them and grow. My next guest is definitely somebody you want to listen to, check out, and follow, because not only is she just a wonderful human being, but she's also very knowledgeable about several different things that can help your business. So without further ado, I want her to introduce herself to all of you. Please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Doug, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that intro. Yeah, to everyone. Hello to everyone that I do know. So shout out to all of you. And for those of you that, that I haven't met yet, please, feel free. My DMs are open, so feel free to connect. Always happy to. My name is Zineb. I have two jams. I have a small jam, which is Pitch Slap. So I co-founded Pitch Slap. We do investor pitch mentoring for startups. And, apart from the name, we have loads of fun with that. So the name itself is just, it cracks me up. It is a great conversation opener. My other jam, my main jam is I run Raise the Runway. It's a marketing consultancy where I'm actually I'm going through an iteration. Yeah, my business is evolving. So I went from being highly focused on getting people to learn from their customers, which is something that I don't think we do enough of. And I think, Doug, your post today was spot on, right? I always say, we need to stop for a hot second and learn from the people that put their hands in their pockets and paid for your service, right? And then to transfer all that knowledge and stop making stuff up, right? So to really double down on what works. And so this iteration is, I'm still going to be doing that because that's, the basis of good marketing anyways. These are the fundamentals. But I would like to get into more demand generation. So the idea of content also, I really enjoy it. And I'm a huge fan of video. And I think, we're going to get into all this today, hopefully. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. We were going to cover 3 things. Now we're going to do 4 because you talked about it. So let's talk about my post real quick from today. So today is March 23rd. So whenever somebody watching that, this is about a post from March 23rd. So basically, I'm going to set up the premise for the audience, and then we're going to talk about that. So I had a person on WhatsApp reach out to me, and I followed their content for quite some time, and they're everywhere, like TikTok, LinkedIn, email, private community, book club, newsletter, and then, so I knew they were doing all of that. Then they reached out to me, they're like, I haven't been able to make a sale in, X amount of time. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And do you know why? And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to get on a call. We're going to have to work through that, uncover it. So we didn't do that, but I already kind of knew why, because I've been following for such a long time. And I told them right away, you're not talking to anybody specifically. Your content is very out here. It sounds a lot like stuff that comes out of your own head instead of what comes out of your customer or your buyer's head, because the language you're using very generic, and you're really talking to nobody. And unfortunately, you're talking to nobody on 8 touch points. So you've got multiple social media platforms, the newsletter, the email, the private community. So you're making it worse for yourself. I would highly encourage you to stop what you're doing today. Full stop. take the next 2 days to relax, get a notepad out, and call your client that you had success with and ask them the following question. I gave you 3, which was on the post. Why did you reach out to me? Who did you consider before me? And what value did I bring to you? Obviously, there's a lot of others, but get started with that. That's the premise. So you said you agree. Why? I want to know the psychology of why you agree.
Well, again, did I mention great post? No, great post. I think there's not enough of that. So that's what I would start off with this. I think there's too much focus on how do we get more leads, more ads, more clicks, more, and not enough on this stuff, which is the fundamentals. And because it's not as easy as I put in 100 euros and I get X clicks or X leads, right? It doesn't fit in an Excel sheet. It takes a little bit of, thinking. It takes a little bit of, connecting. It's a bit like opening Pandora's box sometimes, right? When you run these interviews and you ask, it's more of a conversation, and you're guiding it, type of a thing, and trying to get like that information out of them through prepared questions and just going with the flow, also to let them just express themselves and give you all that, feel comfortable enough to give you all that juice. So it can feel like you're opening Pandora's box, because when you talk to 10, 15, you're like, okay, so what do I do with this, right? And I can totally get it. So if you're not used to that, or you don't do this for a living, or it can, so reach out for help. It's about connecting. How do you go from those insights to a solid strategy, something that you can test right away, positioning, an angle, that angle, so you're not singing the same song as everyone else and all that stuff, right? But that can help you. It's there. It's not from
100%.
Yeah, it's not from more doing, and even less doing, more of that sort of blind doing in several channels, right? That's like putting a mess on gasoline, no?
That's spot on. And for me, when I teach people how to do that, I say one of the quickest ways to get that type of information is actually on the sales call. So when you get somebody on the sales call, this is what I do. I create content. Not all of it. Some of the content comes from the sales call. Why? Because I say things like, why did you reach out to me? What was the thing that made you reach out? And 2, who have you been working with, or who have you been considering, and why did you not go with that, or why has it not been working for you? And I start listening to the language that they use, and I start writing it down and putting it away, so that when the time comes, it can be part of the content. And I think people just hop on the sales call, go quick through the project, and they don't do a exit interview. So say the project's over, the contract's done. I would highly encourage people to set up one more call for 30 minutes to kind of wrap up. What value did you get out of this? What could I have done better? What did you like about things like that? I don't think people ask the customers any question at all, right?
No, they don't. There's one, Doug, is also because it makes them uncomfortable to ask for that. It's like the same uncomfortable state we get into when we have to ask for testimonials, right? And that's the same thing. Now, these types of exit interviews, you could do an exit interview for feedback, right? And then schedule a customer interview recorded, etc. And even get, some are really cool. Some customers are really cool, and especially those that work with you, Doug, they have to be super cool. You can get a video testimonial out of that, because you have this, and you clip it, you move things around, and then you send it over to them. Do I get your okay? And you get an even more powerful, more real video testimonial than the ones that they record themselves, right?
That is super powerful. Obviously, in the old way would be ask for a write-up, and you put the profile picture next to the write-up with text. But I think that's overdone, and it's actually much more personal when they give you a video testimonial. Why? Because you're using language that talk to your customers for you. You know, the things that the way they describe things is a lot different than a formal write-up where they go, Doug was great. He helped the team. That no, it's different when they speak, and it really connects with your customers. So definitely a video testimonial. And quick question: what are some other ways you would encourage people to get in touch with the customer and try to get some feedback?
So for you know, if we just leave the customers for just 1 second to the side, you know, one thing that helps you really just fine tune your message, your angle, etc., is, you know, talking to prospects. So if the idea is to get as many no's as possible, you need to get more calls. So the more calls you get on, the more you actually hear yourself. That's one, right? Sometimes you're like, oh my God, this makes no sense, right? The other one is you see the other person's face. Do their eyes light up, you know, or are they just about to fall asleep? Do they ask you follow-up questions? Does it mean they didn't understand this point? Do I need to reword it? So that's that in itself is super important. Then networking, you know, what we're doing, the people, you know, getting on calls to network, to learn from each other. You know, if I explain to you what I do and you're like, Zineb, I don't get it, you know, that's super helpful for me. So I need to be looking for that, right?
You're making me think. This is really good. You know, I used to work for a call center a while back. I still work with them, but in different capacity. And one of the very first things I did when I started writing content for them, because they're a call center, I asked to have tapes from some of the calls where customers were coming in complaining about the product, the experience, and things like that. And from there, you can create a whole battery of content just listening to people being upset, you know, and that's scary. You know, nobody wants to get on the phone with people complaining about something, but I find it really refreshing because you're being more honest about the thing, about you, than if they give a recommendation. They're more candid with the language they use and why this didn't work. And you can start to hear and start tailoring things to address objection, misunderstanding, FAQ, things of that nature. So listening on the call is critical, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, I don't know what the stats are, but that is why, you know, it's so much easier to give negative reviews online than it is to get people to give, you know, positive reviews, right? So the negative ones just come out so naturally, right? And they give so much color. And then the you know, just the testimonials, if you don't maybe give them a little, you know, some points as to what you would like them to cover, not putting words in their mouths, but it just, if not, it's just what you said. Doug is fantastic, blah blah blah. It doesn't do, which is what you're trying to do, which is give content to someone that is shopping around, a prospect, make them a move along the buying cycle. That's the only thing we need to be thinking about, is what will get someone moving along the buying cycle, right? Yeah.
Just a slight tangent before we dive back into useful stuff. Did you go to college wanting to be in marketing? What did you go to college to do?
I went to college to go to college, so that was first. to go to college.
That's and pretty much 95% of people go to college. They go to college, right?
And my idea was I wanted to be a doctor, actually. So I started pre-med. I had one of my mom's really good friends was a doctor.
Me too. I was in pre-med. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then I went to chemistry class. I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I don't want to do this anymore.
I will share my transcript. It's chemistry class that I have a W. I actually withdrew from the course and I was like, okay, that's it. I don't want to be a doctor. It was chemistry. Too many test tubes and too many things. I was like,
I did okay in biology. Like I went to biology. That was fun. Do you know why biology is so much more fun? Because biologists are great storytellers. They go back in time and try to explain, how we came to be and why things do what they do. They're very much the storytellers of science. With chemistry, when I got there, I just can't connect to it. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm up all night trying to figure out the moral theory and things. It's just like, I don't care, And so what happened when you got out of pre-med?
I got into business administration, which I think is what everyone gets into when they don't know what to do.
That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
I got my degree in business administration. You know why? You might not guess why. I had 2 years left to graduate, so I went to my advisor. I don't know what everybody calls it outside of America, but the advisor helps you pick classes for the next semester. Right? So they said, you're not going to make it, dog. You have 2 years left. You're looking to stay for another 3 years. Well, I can't do that. I'm here for 2 more years. So tell me what the easiest major you have. And she's like, well, I can't tell you that, dog. No, I'm serious. What is the easiest major you've got? And I would go with that. She's like, business. Put me in business. And she wasn't lying. I went there and I'm in the back of the class. I'm like, okay, interesting. And there's no tests. There's nothing to test. It's all putting together presentation and convincing other people that you know more than them. And I graduated in 2 years. So that's why I got into business. What was your reason?
There was a bit of, I think, pressure. So not knowing, right? And I saw that option was, I was intrigued by businesses, by knowing how companies would work, etc. My dad has been an entrepreneur for forever, so that has always intrigued me.
Really?
But
what did your dad do? What did your dad come up with?
No, my dad for years he's been in the fishing business. So he had fishing boats that would fish in Moroccan waters, and they would sell the shrimp to Spain. Right, so they had a company between Spain and Morocco.
So he was a fisherman with an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, so he had these huge boats. He had, I think, about 10 or 15 boats that would go out there. The teams would go out there for—
That's a lot of work.
For 1 or 2 months or 3 months at a time, and then when they would bring the shrimp back, it would be sold. Because there's an agreement, Spain and Morocco, the waters. It's a whole mess. So it sort of made sense that way, and the good thing is I grew up with really good shrimp at home. That when I left for the US and I left Morocco, I was like, oh crap, shrimp is expensive.
Whoa, it's expensive here. It's like $20 for the ring with the sauce, and it's like no thanks.
Yeah. So anyway, so that I was always inspired by his story, etc. And then I also minored in applied mathematics, right? And that's
Oh man.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, I know, but I loved it. I know, but yeah.
So how did you end up doing what you're doing now? Did you end up working for a marketing agency, or did you just do your own thing this whole time?
I got into sales, export. So my very first really big job opportunity it was at an international company. They had been doing some export, but they really wanted to build a full-on export department. And I made sense with my background, the languages that I speak, and I think the energy or there was a fit. So I got to build that, and I got to travel a lot, you know, to an expo in Russia, to Boston, to, you know, so that was cool. And we would sell again in the shrimp business, and this time farm raised from Latin America. They would farm raise shrimp there, and what I would do is sell containers full of farm raised shrimp to the rest of Europe. So not Spain, but the rest of Europe. And that was, yeah. So that was my first real
That doesn't
big.
sound like a lot of fun, though. Was it fun?
It was fun. It was a very male dominated and still
I
is
was about to
industry.
say that's a very rough
Yeah.
sector
But it's
to work in.
yeah, but it's good because it gets you, you know, it gets you ready for certain things. Because if you don't go through this kind of stuff, you don't, at least for me, I don't get to see how I can stand, you know, my ground, and how, you know, because at first it's a process, right? To not let that stuff get to you, to not, you know, to say, hey, I'm here and I'm exactly like you, and we're here to help each other and to move this business together. So I think that that was super important. Yeah. So I think, yeah, having that experience, I didn't get into marketing directly, but what I really enjoyed is the sales enablement aspect of it, right? So building something from scratch, you had to either do it yourself or help sales, you know, have material to communicate, or, you know, what did they need to move deals along, right? And that's where I would come in, and I absolutely love that. So it's like, and that's a big part of what I do now, right? And that's what I love.
It kind of triggers the creative part of your brain, right?
Yeah.
The materials that you had to put together. What kind of materials did you have to put together? Like brochures or one pages?
Yeah. Brochures, yeah, all that stuff from the good old days, you know, when you had to do trade shows, when you had to do like, you actually had to travel to see, you know, clients and and prospects, right? The good old days.
Well, I never had to travel to see clients. I actually, pre-pandemic, never called a client. I never got on the phone. Well, first of all, the audience might not know, but I can't hear. Like, so picking up the phone and having a sales call, I never did that. I sold 100% through email. So then the pandemic hit, and the people were always like, let's hop on Zoom. I'm like, what's Zoom? No, what do you need done? And I'll go do it. Here's the price, da. And then my friend's like, you know, you can hop on Google Meets. They have captions. Yeah, schedule a Google Meets call. And I never heard of Calendly or what was it? Schedule once or whatever these things were. I mean, what is Calendly? Why can't they just say calendar? And he's like, don't worry about that. Just give them your Calendly link. I'm like, okay. So I give them the link. And my first sales call was actually March at the start of the pandemic. And I get on the call and I see the client for the first time. Oh, so what's up, man? What do you need? And the guy's like, what do you mean? What do I need? I'm like, you called. So what do you need from me? That was my first sales call I've ever had. And I actually got it because he really appreciated it. Like, he's so used to, he told me later, he's so used to people winding him up, asking him questions, and trying to isolate objections. I simply turned on Google Meet. I'm like, hey, what do you need, man? So, long ways to start. But I thought I'd throw that out there because actually, the good old days for me was actually, I don't want to meet the client. Just email me and tell me what you need. Then Google Meets came with the caption. Zoom didn't come with captions. That took 3 years later. And then I started hopping on podcasts. And then I started coaching. I never coached before the pandemic. It was straight up copywriting services. And so it's a wonderful thing What's changed in the last 3 years in my life, really? But so that's fascinating. Back in the day, you actually flew out to meet clients and hand them material to get a sale of sort. I never had to do that, but that's interesting, right?
Yeah, I love that story, and I love that you seriously. It's the second time, just from laughing, got the tears rolling down
Well, we should cut this up, right, and put it on LinkedIn and see what
on
everybody says.
LinkedIn.
Speaking
Exactly.
of LinkedIn, let's transition slightly. When did you get on LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn, I had been on LinkedIn for years, but the old way of doing LinkedIn, which is okay, so I'm in between jobs, or I need to find someone in my network or whatever, and I'll open LinkedIn. But when I really took it seriously was end of 2019. So pre-pandemic. So it was pre-pandemic. However, it wasn't.
That's 1 year before everything started closing up, right?
About 6 months, six to
Okay.
seven months before. But I think with the pandemic, when I had put too many eggs in one basket, and when the pandemic hit, I lost most of my revenue from one day to the next, right? So that's when I freaked out for 2 days, and then I was like, okay, let's go, Zita, let's go. We need to think of what's next. Let's go. And I relied, I turned to LinkedIn, of course, because LinkedIn for me, first and foremost, it's the network, it's the people, it's the support, right? And the rest is history. But that was like my first step, right? And it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey.
I think I first started noticing you maybe a year and a half ago. Okay. So you were on the edge of LinkedIn in a different type of circle. But I noticed you for sure. You were very you're just a really good host. Like you make people feel good wherever you are. And I noticed that from afar, we didn't really connect yet on any level. And then people started dropping you off. It always happens with business, especially side hustle. It's that they start really strong and they realize, oh, you actually need to know how to do that. And then they drop off. And so you and I got a little bit closer after months. And then I think it was maybe 6 months ago, we really, our network started colliding a lot more. And then, wow, the way you do LinkedIn is really refreshing. You've got your pitch track. I saw those. I'm not sure if it was LinkedIn Live or it was a video that you were showing up. And then you did the website Teardown or Takedown. And then everything she's saying is absolutely spot on. And then we just collided, and it's been nothing but a bunch of that. Just that. But believe it or not, I did take your content seriously. Not that I don't. Just before more laughing. And so, so I'm sorry. That sounds like I'm insulting you. I'm not.
No,
I'm just,
not at all. Not at all.
it's just we have nothing to tell each other, so we're just friends, right? It's hard, Anyway, my point is that I really respected your strategy. What was your strategy when you lost everything? What did you decide to do in so far as content and the way you were going to interact with people on LinkedIn? And yeah, please start that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a journey, because I think, one of the first, we all know that you need to ask yourself, what do you want to be known for? What is it that Zineb do? Like, if I want to occupy a space in other people's minds, what is that space? I can't be all sorts of things, right? And that's all nice and dandy, and that's that's part of what I teach, and what I do when I work with clients. But when you have to do it for yourself, it's a bit tougher, right? Which is great, but I think if you go through it yourself first, I think it makes it much easier to get others to go through it too, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a LinkedIn coach. I always say this. It's just that I share, I share my experience and all that, because I think there's a big part that's the mental, the mindset, the fears, the ego, all that stuff that doesn't come in an ebook. It doesn't come in a guide. It doesn't come. That stuff you need to do for yourself, right? So at the beginning, you're like, I'm going to learn from here. Since I love numbers. I've got this thing. I'm very creative, but I'm still latching on to that numbers part. I'm like, ooh, algo. I got to learn everything about this algo, right? So, I love Andy Foot's content, Richard Van, I'm gonna butcher his name. Let's call him Richard. So I'm like, ooh, I need to learn everything about the algo. And then after a while, you're like, okay, the algo is not gonna, you're never gonna learn everything. So go back to the just doing and you'll figure it out, right? Finding my angle has not been easy, right? And it's a work in progress, and I'm still there. But I think the most important thing for me,
never stops, man.
It never stops. And I think never stops.
People, here's what makes me uncomfortable sometimes when people come to my DMs. You're a LinkedIn rock star, dog, da. I'm like, okay, but if only you knew. I'm just figuring out the angle, and it doesn't stop. You don't stop. You don't figure it out, because the next month is going to throw something new at you, whether it's the algorithm or whether it's a dip in engagement, just because there's less people on it. Well, they're pushing out polls, and you're not a poll guy. It never stops. So to your point, I just want to emphasize the point that I don't think we all ever stop figuring out how we're going to do that. We just get better over time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And over time, hopefully your audience grows. But, I think what's important here is, of course, never forget, that, at the end of the day, your ideal clients need it clear, right? If you want to get them to pay attention and want to work with you, it needs to be clear, sure. But then there's this whole, because that's business related, but there's this whole part of LinkedIn, which is, your support network, your learning network, your all this, that they're not there just for the engagement, right? They're there to support you, to challenge you, right? Challenge you. And this is important because it's not like, okay, Doug, whatever he posts, I'm gonna like. No, Doug, if I don't agree with Doug, I will tell Doug. And if there's something that I feel that maybe you went off track, I'll go and jump in your DMs and be like, hey, Doug, I didn't understand your last post.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
And that's super important. You don't get that
I think
if you don't
people who hop on LinkedIn for the first time take it too serious, right? It is a serious endeavor. However, it's not what you actually think it is, because like you just said, you got your business aspects on it, which needs to be rock solid. But there's the learning community, there's the support community, there's your friends, so to speak, and it's really a networking platform. And I think people get LinkedIn wrong. It's that they approach it like a content platform. It's not. TikTok is a content platform. TikTok doesn't facilitate networking. Try having a networking DM on TikTok. It is awkward because it's not set up to handle long conversation. You can't share documents and things like that. LinkedIn facilitates that. But a mutual person that we know, who you referred me to, is right now, as we speak, struggling with. It's not what you think it is. Because when we start talking about content, the very first question they ask, I'm using that, so nobody knows what I'm talking about. That nobody wants to hear that. I mean, actually, people want to hear stories. They want to hear you. They want to hear your expertise. They want to hear you, the person. It's enormously difficult to get that across to a lot of people for LinkedIn. Did you ever struggle with that when you first got back on to take it serious? How to find your voice?
Absolutely. It's absolutely. I didn't, one of the things that I absolutely enjoy is humor, right? And I've learned to embrace that. My creative part also, I've learned to embrace that, and that has been over the years, right? And it from the comments and the DMs and the discovery calls, so from people that I have never met, when they tell you that they enjoy the energy or that I have a specific way of talking, etc. So I listen to, like, going back to listening to what people say, that there's something a bit more not different, but it's not the same as everyone else. So I stood out for that one thing, right? So I'm gonna do more of that one thing, right? It's called just being me. No, it turns out it's called just being me. And I think that was the process that I had to sort of go through when I started. You read all these rules and you're like, okay, so I'm gonna get on this. I'm gonna read all this advice, and this one tells you, this is not Facebook. The other one tells you don't do selfies, and you're like, okay, and then your content comes out like this.
Yeah, robotic.
Yeah,
so robotic.
Like that. But it doesn't mean that you just have to find your own style, and that's what I had to find mine, right? And I think that's what I always tell people, is that you have to find your own, and I can't tell you what it is. You have to find out for yourself, right?
I can't tell clients what that is. I try to give them the space to find what that is. What part of yourself are you going to bring onto LinkedIn daily and try to engage people that way? It's quite frightening for a lot of people to, number one, figure out who they're going to be on LinkedIn. And people take that as, oh, so you want me to develop a fake character? No, it's just, I am not personally 100% myself on LinkedIn. Otherwise, my post will look like a diary. It will look like grunting of a madman. Maybe it already is. But really, the stuff that goes in my head doesn't all belong on LinkedIn. It belongs with friends, maybe my wife or something. But I think you just have to put your best foot forward on LinkedIn that you're confident about and use it. I like your content because you don't go too deep into the personal stuff, right? I'm not a fan of that myself. People are, there are some people who are open about what type of depression they have, what type of medication they take. And for me, I'm like, okay, I get it, man. I'll push the like button. I'll throw a heart emoji. I mean, what am I supposed to say, man?
Doug, I love that you said that, because I think we're in line when it comes to this. I did a post over a month and a half ago or something like that, but the question of how do I show up online, right? And I think it's you do you find, there are people that will be an open book, they'll share everything like you just said, and others that don't share anything. So you find that balance wherever you feel comfortable. But the only thing that cannot happen is that when I jump on a Zoom call with you, I should never, ever be surprised.
That's true.
That's it. The rest, I don't
I can't
care.
be interacting with your content. Show up on Zoom. I'm like, they're not
exactly.
lining up.
Exactly. That's
very true. I mean,
so
I think how I'm talking right now is how I talk on LinkedIn, right? And same for you. You have a very solid, warm presence, and that shows up on camera, shows up on LinkedIn. I think that's very critical for people to do that, but it's really difficult to get business owners to do that. Different. Marketers, sales, I think we give ourselves a little bit more freedom to do that. But when we start advising business owners who have teams to show up online in a certain way, they get really tense. They're like, "Ugh, I don't know if I can do that." Why do you think that is?
You know, the first person that came to mind was Casey Graham, as an example of what, you know, of an example of
He's
someone
an
that is not
exception.
like,
He's an
yeah,
exception that
hmm,
the people that
yeah,
Gong,
yeah,
Grady, they do it right.
hmm,
But there's the odd people out, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
So
why they're just scooping up all these sales. I'm sorry for interrupting. What were you going to say about Casey
no, no,
Grant?
no. I was going to say that was, you know, I pictured him as an example of good, like a good CEO, no, on LinkedIn, and him pushing the team, and pushing in a good way, motivating the team, because, you know, he always says that it's not about. I watched a video that he did. He reminds the team that, you know, the company they're in right now, you know, it's not for life, so it's their career. So they better double down on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is their career, right? It's not just
Wow.
your job, right? Not verbatim, but that was the idea, and I absolutely love that. So he's bought in, and right, that's not a good example, because, you know, for the rest of the business owners, it's much more difficult. No, I think mainly, you know, how will that reflect on my business if I get 2 likes? How will that reflect on my business if I say something silly? How would I reflect? No, so there's like these limitation that we put, that we literally don't need, because we need to test stuff as much as possible, broaden the limits until you find out you're like, "Ooh, I've reached the limits." You know, Jimmy Carr, the comedian?
Mm-hmm.
So he stretched those limits. But I'm
He's
sure that,
hilarious, by the way, that comedian.
yeah, but I'm
Like,
sure that
I
even
feel
him.
guilty for laughing at some of his jokes. I'm watching
Same.
TV on Netflix by myself. My wife's upstairs sleeping, my kids are sleeping. I'm watching this comedian. He says something really rough. And I'm like, there's nobody in the room with me. So, so anyway, yeah, that's a great analogy.
And he's stretched the limits until, and I'm sure he's reached his limit, but his limit is, you know, is huge compared to my limits. But the idea is to go limitless until you figure out what your limit is. But if you start out with limits, I don't know if this, like, if this makes any sense, Doug, but if you start out with limits, you're just
Yeah,
not
it
gonna
makes
find
sense.
out.
When I first got on LinkedIn, I came from Twitter, and Twitter was the limits of what you could possibly say to somebody without, getting the FBI involved. They went far with how they came after you. And I got burned out from that. So the limit was too far, even myself. The kind of content I was putting out there was quite provocative. It was, it wasn't mean-spirited, but it was, I would imagine if you got in a room full of comedians and you heard the way they talk to each other, you're like, whoa, that's kind of how Twitter was for me. But I got burned out from it. It was constantly fighting off trolls and vipers. I got doxxed twice. People doxed at me. They put my address online. It was
Oh my God.
bonkers. So I closed it and I nuked my account. There's a program you could buy that literally obliterate all your information from that. I had to do that. Then I switched to LinkedIn, and at that time I said, you know what? I'm gonna be professional. I'm gonna share knowledge, and they're just gonna love me. I did that. It didn't work. It didn't work. 6 months, 7 months. You want to go from 0 to 30% email open rate. Here's what you do: A, B, C. DM me if you want more information. I did that all the time. Nothing happened. It wasn't until I'm like, okay, I gotta go back to Twitter, but I'm not gonna do Jimmy Carr type stuff. I'm going to get a little bit rough. I'm going to call some people out. And then it started picking back up again. It was interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you made that point. Sometimes it goes too far. and you open Pandora's box, and sometimes it's too
Yeah.
little. So you have to kind of allow yourself the freedom to push it a little bit every single month. So
Yeah.
it's really hard, especially this client I was talking about. It's right here. You know, I'm trying to get them to unzip their jacket a little bit, relax, let your hair down, and start talking a little bit. It's tough. It's really, really, really
Yeah.
tough. Yeah. Let me ask you a
It-
question.
Mhm.
This is very vain of me. I apologize. What do you make of my content on LinkedIn? Do you think it's super aggressive, or do you think I'm funny? What do you think of my online content? I've never asked anybody this question. You're the first person I've asked straight up. I don't even ask my wife. It doesn't matter. She
Drum
doesn't
roll.
understand. I want to
Drum
know
roll.
from somebody who understands marketing so well as you do. What do you make of my content?
The first thing that comes to mind is you poke, right? You poke, but it's not clickbaity. It's not like, hey, you poke because we need to grab attention, right? So you definitely stand out, but there's a follow through with you. It's not like a hook that's clickbaity and then it just meh. No?
Clickbaity stuff.
Yeah, it's not like that. So you poke and you say it like it is and you shake things up, but you're also, contrary to your profile photo where you look all serious, and I remember when you changed that photo and you put I remember that. Yeah, it's you also have that side of you that's such a sweetie pie. So this idea of having both.
Thank you.
And you're funny.
That's great. I'm glad you brought up the poke. That is me. I love to poke. So people, my wife knows if we go out to dinner with friends, she said, "Okay, Doc, just be nice. Don't bring up, the color of the hair. Just leave it alone. Let's have a nice meal, and then we'll go out and we eat it." And her friend had purple hair, and I'm like, "I'm so biny." "Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Sarah." So I get the elbow right in my rib. And I didn't mean to call you biny. I'm not Sarah. But that's just me. That's me. I like to poke a little bit. Sometimes I take it too far, but thank you for that. Sometimes you're not sure of how you're being portrayed to the public, right? I mean, I can't read the label from inside the jar. And, so it's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, poke, but he's a nice guy. Oh, great. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and you sound, and most importantly, which this is of course the super obvious, which you look confident, you play the part. So no, it's not just here I am here and I'm this, and then there's nothing else of substance, right? So you share loads of social proof, so there's confidence. Yeah, that's super important.
So let's switch this up again. I like switching things up. Let's talk about websites. I love the way you break things down. How did you come up with the idea for that type of show?
The teardowns,
What's the name of it, by the way, so everybody knows?
Oh, just website teardowns. Just website teardowns. You can, if anyone's interested, you can sign up. We have a form if you want us to put you in the list. On the list, we'll happily tear yours
Give
down.
it to me after the show. So this is going on YouTube. I will put her LinkedIn information in the description. If she has a website, I think she does. I'll put it in the description. If you have to sign up, give it to me. I'll put it in the description box below. I want people to reach out and get in touch with you.
Will do.
Please continue.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Doug. The idea was I don't do that's not what I sell. So people don't come to me just to get their website redone, right? It's much more than that. It's a part of the process, right? However, it's a way for me to show the thinking process that I have to everyone else in a video. So these are free. So we do this. This is content for LinkedIn, and I partnered with one of my favorite salespeople. He's fun. We complement each other because it's like good cop. Well, not that good cop, that would be me, but really bad cop, and it's like really blunt
It's
and
a nice
want to
polarity
soften it up.
going on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And yeah, so that was the whole premise. We meet every single week, so there's also the consistency. We meet every single Monday from 4 to 5. We record a whole business conversation around it, and then we do, 10-15 minutes of teardown. I edit that, and then yeah, we each share it.
It's so brilliant. On two respect. On the one hand, great way to have your buyer get inside your brain and pre-qualify themselves if they want to reach out. I think that I need to come up with something like that for myself. Not website teardown, maybe LinkedIn post teardown. Well, I
There you
go
go.
ape on people and say, I'll be nice. That aside, but the second part is, you're so spot on about what you're noticing. And what I want to do here, though, is what are the top, let's do top 3. What are the top 3 mistakes, common mistakes people do with their landing pages that you've noticed after doing so many of them?
First one that comes to mind is an easy one. It's your social proof is either non-existent, or it's not, it's just down there all the way at the end in a really long page, right? So if granted, these landing pages, they're probably not going to be where they're going to discover you, right? They're going to discover you somewhere else, and then they're going to come here. If they discovered you on Google, search, maybe they'll know a little bit less and they'll need to do a bit more learning. But if they discovered you on LinkedIn, for example, they probably know a bit more about you. But anyways, that social proof is so important to have that, whenever possible, in the above the fold or right below it, right? If you have logos, or if you have, ratings or whatever, super important. That's number one. Then, the above the fold itself, which is, we spend a lot of time on that. And I was thinking, why don't we just make the whole show just about the above the fold? Because we could spend 15 minutes on that. Which
no,
I think
I'm just cheering because
yeah.
this is a breath of fresh air. When I make a landing page, we need to A/B test, okay? We need to A/B test the whole thing. No, about the fold. It's the headline picture. It makes sure we're keeping people on the page. But this is a breath of fresh air. Sorry, please. Well, about the fold stuff. Absolutely agree with that. What's the third thing that comes to mind?
Which is in the above the fold, but to give you an example that's outside of the above the fold, just to switch things up a bit, is talking about your product right away. Boom, this is me. Hello, and this is me. This is what I do, and welcome to my store, and this. No, this is a place where you need to feel like you're heard, like you're, you like we connect. No, this is not about me right now. So yeah, going right to the AI and the machine learning and it's
One thing I do want to mention, just for me, I think personally, ClickFunnels, okay? So I used to run ClickFunnels back in the day when it was a breath of fresh air when they first came on the scene, okay? Then I always held the opinion that they sort of ruined e-commerce and ruined how a landing page should look, because people keep following the ClickFunnels type of landing page, and when they're really aggressive and upselling you depending on what you click. There's an immediate upsell, and then you click again, there's an immediate upsell, and you click. It takes many clicks to get to the shopping cart. And anyway, just for everybody out there, I hate ClickFunnels. I think they're highly ineffective, not necessarily a ripoff for many reasons. You're much better off hiring a copywriter and putting together a basic landing page that decreases friction and get people to the shopping cart as fast as they possibly can. If you want to upsell them, do it after they click the shopping cart and give the credit card. You can get them on a mini thank you email sequence to kind of upsell them a little bit. But ClickFunnels and the e-commerce side of the house, it's so obnoxiously aggressive that, they changed the way we do landing pages because they set the tone for what people think landing pages are. So it's interesting. You're Teardown B2B, right?
Generally, yes. We've had a few B2C, projects, but yeah, generally, yeah. If no one has signed up, what we do sometimes is just go to eustartups.com, and we say, okay, so which country is it going to be today? Because they have the different startups by country, and we pick one that's interesting, and that's it. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great idea for anybody looking to demonstrate expertise and knowledge on LinkedIn, which is figure out. Well, it's easier for marketers, right? Because we can tear down or take down things we see. But when we talk about salespeople or when we talk about mindset coaching or B2B products, it's a little bit harder. But I think with some creativity, maybe a phone call with you, they can come up with their own version of that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely happy. Like I said before, my DMs are open, and I'm always, looking for ways to cook up new ideas, and so I'm happy to help.
So if I do my own version of it, do you recommend that I not pick random people in the feed to attack? That people should volunteer their own post for my public takedown?
I think that with the engagement that you have, you're going to have a sign up form that's, you're going to have a list of people, like you're going to have a huge list. You won't be at a loss for options, right? And you'll get less friction unless you're feeling especially, naughty and blunt, you just pick one at random. But yeah,
I actually would be very nice and warm and kind with a little bit of a nudge right there, But you're giving me a great idea. Maybe I should do that. Who knows?
You should.
So
you should.
This has been great. I could talk for another hour, but let's have a part 2. What do you think? You want to do part 2? We'll do it next month, okay?
I would love it. Yeah.
Great. So
I would love it.
What do you have a website where people can find you?
Yeah, raisetherunway.co.
What is it? www.
raisetherunway.co.
Okay, I'll put that in the description along with her LinkedIn profile. Believe me when I say she is one of the warmest people you can reach out to. She will love to help you. She's not going to piss slap you. She'll have a conversation with you and see where she can help you. She's phenomenal at that. So with that said, check the description. Have fun with learning a lot about her. So I'll see you next time with the Boom number 6. Special guest. I think it's going to be a major guy. You're the best. But this guy is like, he's a competitor of mine. I really just want to pop him in the mouth. But he's a great guy. And he's got a huge following that I'm super jealous about. But you know who it won't be. But with that, I'll say goodbye to you. Till next time.